Hello and welcome to Are You Not Entertained? I'm Daniel.
I'm Rachel.
And I'm James.
And we are continuing our spooky season coverage of classic horror films here with The Shining.
Doesn't get a whole lot more classic than that.
No, not well. I mean, it does time-wise. This was only
Right,
1980. We already talked about a movie from the 70s, so
Fair. I just argue that Kubrick is considered one of the best directors of all time. And,
yes.
The other ones as well. But, I would put Kubrick up there with, like, Orson Welles and Hitchcock kind of classic.
Yeah, he certainly has the same mystique.
Yeah.
He has a thing.
Yeah, and it's for being an incredibly terrible director to work with who makes great films.
That's, I could see the two coinciding.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to say, personally, obviously, I'm not a huge Stanley Kubrick fan. I don't exactly care for the way he does movies. They're very unique, and I love that he's got such a strong vision.
Mm-hmm.
But they're just not up my alley. There's too many long scenes of just staring at a character's face for minutes while they think.
They can be considered slow.
Yeah. Well, this is definitely not, 2001: A Space Odyssey.
No.
True.
Because that's like
painful at times.
That's got some times you're just like, yes. And
I love that movie. So I get it, and I'll let you have
No,
it.
I do too. However, you can't watch that movie. I don't care if you love it or not. You can't watch that movie and not go, yes, it's a black monolith. Do we need to stare at it for another 2 minutes?
Yeah,
but we do.
The inverted colored landscapes are the only parts that really get me in that movie.
Yeah. Unlike in our previous movie, Halloween, when they spent too long on a little boy's confused face.
Also,
that's
great.
That's a dig at you.
Yeah. No,
remember
burn.
I stand by my previous statement. It's weird.
And yet it's okay.
It fits in a Kubrick movie.
Exactly.
It's the kind of movie it is.
That's how it goes.
And I would argue there's a vast difference between the shots we're referring to in a Kubrick movie, particularly 2001, and that shot.
Yes. There is a difference.
Sure. But there's a lot of scenes in The Shining that aren't incredibly different. But
anyway, The Shining.
To get into it.
Nonetheless.
Yeah.
Yes, The Shining. It does. It's got a slow build.
Mm-hmm. Do you guys like it?
Yeah. No, I love The Shining. I always have. Ever since I watched it the first time, obviously. Not. I watched it 3 times and then decided to like it.
Right.
That happens.
It does.
I'm not a huge fan of The Shining. It's a classic and it's worth watching, but it's definitely not something I need to watch every year.
Yeah.
I don't think I can bring myself to watch a movie that's this dark every year. Like I typically take longer to enjoy darker themes. I'm definitely not the horror fan on the podcast. And
yes.
but The Shining is one of those rare horror movies that I absolutely love. And little to do with I don't know. It's pretty late into the reason why is in the horror, but also just like the the craft of it. I think the acting and Nicholson are insane. I'm not the biggest Shelley Duvall fan, but I
I
kind
think
of love her
she's.
character in this.
I love her character, but I think she's a weak spot as far as like the acting goes. Like,
Yeah,
there's lots of I can't even really put it into words. I don't know that I can really describe what it is about it, but
it feels overly generic and like realistic because of it, but not compelling.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't put it into words. It's just kind of weird to me.
I think that she's great, and I think that a lot of it has to do with the way this particular character's written. When you look at her character compared to the other two main characters in Jack and Danny, there's so much more to those roles.
Right.
There's so much more meat and so many different things that they get to experience, and she really doesn't get any of the extra that they do. Right? She's kind of your generic scared mom.
She's the one going, "What the hell's going on?" while everyone sees ghosts.
Right.
Yeah. And so I sort of understand why maybe her character feels a little flimsier, just because she's kind of written that way. There's not anything extra for her to give or to dig into.
No, it's not the character that I have a problem with. It's the execution of the acting. It's just kind of like noodle arms running around with a knife. Oh, I'm so scared. It's just...
That's Shelley Duvall, though. She
okay.
Is noodles. That's her.
I guess I don't like her then. Like I said, no, I like the character. I like the character just fine. I think she did well at portraying like the emotions of the character.
Yeah.
But it was just so like, I don't know.
There's something about her about every character. I was thinking about this. The only character that doesn't just kind of weird you out is the receptionist at the hotel that Jack asks for the manager. Every other character is slightly unnerving. The manager is just kind of weird and nonchalant about stuff. There's that strange dude who sits next to Jack and just like stares at him most of the time and doesn't say, but like,
he's supposed to be. I forget who he's supposed to be. He's supposed to be somebody, but yeah, he didn't say anything.
Doesn't do anything.
And then you've got Danny and then Mr. Halloran, who both have The Shining, so that's a little unnerving. Jack is clearly insane from the get-go.
Yeah,
before they ever get to the hotel.
Obviously, just a little wrong with him.
Mm-hmm.
He's the sort of guy that you see in an interview and you think, yeah, 6 months in isolation, you'll do just fine.
Yeah, whenever he talks about how, he's asking if he's okay with the fact that there was something bad happened there a long time ago. Jack's response isn't, no, that kind of thing I feel like is in the past and doesn't bother me. It's oh, you don't have to worry about me. Wait.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Should I worry about you?
Yeah, I wasn't worried about you before.
Right.
Trust me, I'm the perfect host for any evil spirits that lurk in your hotel.
You don't have to worry about me. No, I was worried about you wanting to leave, not worried about you chopping people up. What, huh? How did we get here?
You shouldn't bring your family.
Yeah, you don't got to worry about me hacking my family to pieces. That won't happen. Probably.
Only out of ineptitude.
Yeah. No, yeah, he does definitely. He's got something about him that you're like. He's a charming. You say he's a charming character, I guess.
Yeah.
He doesn't seem just like off the rails in
Jack?
the normal conversation. Yeah, Jack. In the normal conversations. But then there are times where you're like, okay. Like, Daddy, I'm hungry. Should have had your breakfast.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
so
Okay. I mean,
I got a theory. And
Okay.
I mean, this is The Shining. So there is every theory imaginable out there.
everyone has a theory.
Right. Like and I'm sure that this one has been thought of 1,000 times and discussed somewhere else that I just may or may not have heard and don't remember.
Sure.
So I definitely don't claim this is original. But I feel like Jack is that Jack, the current version of Jack is drawn to the Overlook Hotel.
Mm-hmm.
That's why at the end you see the picture of a previous Jack, and why you have Grady tell him you've always been the caretaker.
Right.
And why Jack felt like he knew where every corner was before he had ever been there. And that he's drawn to the Overlook. Be it reincarnation or soul or stuff. I know I've heard that story before.
Sure.
But it feels like Jack is portrayed as a caricature of what a man is supposed to be in any role. From the almost over the top father figure, where you have the kind of like, you should have had your breakfast, to the opposite side where it was the but I love you, Danny, I'd never do anything to hurt you,
Right.
sitting on his lap. And I don't know, there's even the way that he was talks to Lloyd, the bartender. His demeanor and the way he speaks completely changes. It's like Jack's a chameleon, and he's a different character whenever he's around different people, alive or dead. And it's almost like a man who doesn't have a clue who he is. And it's implied too by the fact that he had quit his job as a teacher and is trying to become a writer, but has no good ideas.
Right.
Yeah.
And
I guess that's very true.
And I don't know, I just got this feeling that like he's fake all the time. Every time he's interacting with somebody, he is trying to be what he thinks they want him to be.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I could see it.
He's a sociopath.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what you're telling me.
He's crazy.
Yeah, definitely he is. But at the same time, whether or not that's because he's a quote unquote sociopath or because he's like a reincarnation of an evil spirit, I don't know.
Because he's a reincarnation of a sociopath.
Fair enough.
I'm a sociopath playing a sociopath that was played by a sociopath.
Yeah, honestly, the sort of weird offness that you get with Jack in this, I feel like that with Jack Nicholson in every movie he's in. I don't know if that's just me, but there's just something about him that always feels very disingenuous and a little creepy.
Like a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Yeah, I don't know. He gives me uncomfortable feelings. Jack Nicholson. And I do think it's funny that for this movie to get him appropriately grouchy and difficult to deal with, they fed him cheese sandwiches, which he hates,
Really?
every single day.
Oh, wow.
What? Oh man, what a tool
To just kind of agitate and aggravate him. So
that would do it.
Give me
I thought
dry
that was-
bologna sandwich every day, and I'm going to be in the same boat.
yeah, I will kill someone now.
Mhm.
This is good. And I also think that it was really interesting that while Shelley Duvall was nominated for a Razzie for her performance in this, because speaking on how bad you thought her performance was,
Yeah.
the nomination was rescinded because of how badly Stanley Kubrick treated her.
Yeah.
Oh,
That they said that's what happened to her performance, was he psychologically tortured her, and they would rescind it, which I thought was
he
interesting.
psychologically tortured her, so she acted poorly.
Well, so he upset her to the point that she had a nervous breakdown, and she also started losing her hair, and she couldn't sleep, and it took her a really long time to recover from shooting this movie.
So I've heard about that, but I don't know anything about it. So
Yeah.
yeah, well, she is supposed to be kind of the tortured one here,
Yes.
caught between a kid with The Shining and a crazy husband.
Yeah, and I mean, it wasn't just her. Kubrick kind of tortured other people on set too, because they had to shoot the blood scene, that infamous scene where the blood comes out of the elevators, 3 times,
Oh God.
which doesn't sound like much, right? But
Except for all the cleanup that you have to
When
do.
yeah.
in addition to that, it took them 19 days to prep it. So it took them a year
Lord.
to get 3 takes.
I can do math. How
Man.
come it took a year to
I think
do?
it's just everything else that went on.
Okay. Huh. I mean,
Yeah,
if it ain't right, it
I
ain't
mean-
right.
Yeah.
An uncompromising artist is gonna has the ability to create something like The Shining, but it doesn't. I'm not in any way trying to justify his actions, but they tend to be the jerks who really just treat people poorly because they don't see the vision.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes you got to break some eggs.
I was going the other way. Maybe they should like lighten up and
I don't know.
I
I
think
don't know.
a
It's really
mix.
hard. It's really hard to
just-
say.
if the studios grant more to the director and put less pressure on getting the film done in quote unquote in time and in budget when you have a director such as Kubrick.
Yeah.
Well, the question is it external or is it like that's just
Oh,
him?
you jerk.
Oh, I think it's definitely got to be internal, because you know, he shoots everything a million times. That is his method, right?
Mhm.
So the scene with the baseball bat, they shot that 124 times, which is the record for the most number of takes.
The scene with the base. Oh,
Mhm.
like where she's in the
She's swinging at him going up the stairs
up
backwards.
the stairs.
Yep.
That would be pretty tiring.
Yeah, I definitely think that there needs to be
I
a
think you're gonna get hit in the head with this baseball bat if you make me do this one more time.
a slight midpoint between creative vision, but also just a little bit of reasonability.
Well, I think that honestly, I think that for people that are actually great at an art, like legitimately great, I think there's a little bit of insanity that's involved there. I think
Yeah.
I think that they have to have some sort of psychosis in order to be able to deal with that and then just the goings on of like being alive. Right? Because I feel like it's all consuming, and anything that detracts from your all consuming art that just flows around in your head is probably cumbersome.
Yeah, and especially the frustration of the fact that no one else sees it the way that you do.
Yeah.
Right.
And I have no clue because I'm not even great at anything. So
It's a tough burden to bear, Daniel. I can
Much
attest.
less. Oh,
I'm
okay.
great at literally everything I put my mind to.
Cool.
I'm the golden child.
So when are you going to show that off? Because I've known you for a long
I'm
time
also-
now. And
The best at being lazy.
oh, I see. You're great at being lazy. I see.
That's one of my many talents. Yeah.
No, what he's great at is hiding his greatness.
That too. I'm super awesome at being humble.
I'm a humble guy. I'm the best humble guy.
Oh man.
Yes. No, but I think that at the point where they're talking about the hotel, when they're walking around outside, and he's like, I think it was built on an old Indian burial ground.
Yeah.
They had to fight over it while they were building it. Be like, I'm good.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, this also wasn't before. This was before Poltergeist, right? Was it? This was 80, right? So Poltergeist.
This was 80. I think Poltergeist was.
Was it
I'm
81?
not sure.
Maybe.
Oh.
I just think that the knowledge
I felt like Poltergeist really popularized the idea of an Indian burial ground.
Yeah, so Poltergeist was 1982.
82. Okay. So they stole it. That's what I'm getting. They stole the idea from The Shining, is what I'm understanding here.
I don't know.
No, I mean, yeah, you're not wrong. And I do also, I understand that, what we live and walk on a daily basis is a burial ground for something. Like, it's been around for a very long time. Lots of things have come and gone in the very space that we exist in.
Yeah, if you're worried about somebody not dying where you stand, you have a pretty low probability that's...
Yeah, I think the chances are pretty low.
Yeah, especially an old place.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible.
That's why we're known as the most upbeat podcast.
For sure. Well, long enough timeline, there's death all around all of us.
But I have to say, it's the combination, right? That the last caretaker went crazy and murdered his family. Mm-hmm. Oh, by the way, it's also on a burial ground. Yeah, right. I feel like this isn't a good situation.
Yeah, I don't care if it's an Indian burial ground or not, but like, you go and rip out a cemetery and like, hey, I'm just going to build your house on top of the cemetery. I'm okay. Let's not do that. Let's do something different.
I don't believe in ghosts. I don't believe in any of this. And I still just really am not looking to push my luck.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't think I want to build my house on top of a cemetery.
That's where I stand with it.
I also don't want heavy rainstorms to have bodies come out of my yard, so.
No, or my house to like randomly crack in half because there's a whole line of coffins that can't take the weight, and so they all just fall in. Yeah, no, that's not cool. It's just not cool.
I love how we instantly go from like the supernatural to like very practical reasons.
Yeah. They all count equally. Except in this movie. It's all supernatural.
Now, that's the thing.
Creepy little girls walking around holding hands.
There's literally only 2 moments of supernaturalness in the entire movie that I could tell. Like,
what two are you thinking of?
Of course, you see, I'm talking about beyond it. All of it could theoretically be in their heads. Because none of them share a vision of a poltergeist. They're always separate when ghosts are seen. The only 2 moments is when the ball is rolled to Danny when he's playing with his trucks before he goes into 237.
Mm-hmm.
And the pin that gets pulled out of the door somehow that lets Jack out of the
freezer or the
storeroom.
It's not a freezer, but like
the storeroom.
Storage.
Those are the only 2 moments that I could pick out that were supernatural. I mean, I guess you could argue the idea that the door is now open and unlocked.
Well, yeah, there wasn't a key in it before.
Right. But Jack's also kind of crazy by this point, so I don't really trust that it wasn't him.
Yeah, but the fact that he and Danny share visions, I would count that as supernatural because they wouldn't share the same.
Do they? I don't think Jack ever saw the little girls.
Yeah, but Danny saw the woman who choked him.
Oh, yes. Okay.
And then Jack went in that room and saw a woman.
All right, there it is. That's the one.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
But
But
I
they
would
don't
say
show.
the shared
They don't really
vision.
show you that either, though. Right. Like
you
with
don't
Danny,
know what
they
Danny
don't show.
saw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you assume the
Well,
room
yeah,
is bad.
Yeah, and also Wendy later says a woman choked him.
Yes. Yeah. Which is why Jack went in there.
Yeah, the rest of it could be a hallucination, like his whole time in the bar, things like that.
Right.
Well, we know that's hallucination because they said they removed all the alcohol.
Well, right, but
I know what you're saying. I'm kidding. But
we don't joke on this podcast.
no joking allowed. Only supernatural.
Talks of dead bodies.
Yes. No, I guess that's true. Now that I think about it as well. What did the voices made me do it? That kind of thing.
Almost. I don't know. That's what I love about this film is that there's just so much to it. You don't feel like you didn't get a conclusion. But as you go back through it, you're like, wait a minute. Is it this? And like it breeds that kind of reflective thought that a lot of movies don't. And so that's why it's one of my faves.
Also, the idea that just somebody just eventually stumble on his dead body in the spring.
Yeah. I mean, I have a feeling that Wendy's going to talk to somebody.
Yeah, she probably went straight to the police office, I would assume. Be like, hey, this thing happened, and there's a dead man. Poor nice guy came to save us.
Oh, yes, that guy. Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mr. Halloran.
I love Mr. Halloran. Scatman Crothers, so cool. That performance deserved an Oscar. He was so good.
Yeah, he was.
Love him in this.
He wasn't in a lot of it, but the parts that he was in, he pretty much stole the scene.
Absolutely.
Even when he had an axe buried in his chest. Ah!
Yes.
Yeah, that was really anticlimactic.
I thought, he might be in there, running around trying to help for a second when I first saw this, but no.
I mean, he was the hero, technically. Because Jack was gonna make it in that bathroom and kill Wendy.
Yes.
And it is only because he drove up there that it pulled Jack away, and then Jack heard Danny in the cupboard.
Mm-hmm.
He wouldn't have been down there to hear him in the cupboard otherwise.
That is true.
And it also provided them the transportation to leave.
That too.
Which is also true.
So
he is the hero.
He is the hero.
Well, so you also have to kind of wonder what he saw, right? Because he can see past and future. It's part of his gift.
Part of his shit.
And so it just makes you wonder if he knew he was going to die. Didn't necessarily know, when it was going to happen, but because he looked awfully worried while he was having his vision.
And he also didn't seem like he really wanted to go.
Yeah. No, he didn't. He wanted to make some phone calls.
Right.
Can I just do this from home?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna work my Shining remote.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just gonna talk to Danny from here.
Well, is there anything else you guys wanted to cover before we got into favorite scenes? We're getting close.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
All right, I think I went first last time. Who wants to go?
I'll go first.
What you got?
Yeah, I finally have a favorite scene this time.
Nice.
And for me, it is. It's definitely the bathroom scene with Jack and the old caretaker,
Mm-hmm.
Charles.
Okay.
I don't really know
Mr.
why.
Grady.
Yeah, because again, like I've said, I'm not a huge fan of The Shining, but for me, that scene, it's just great. It's so understated, and it is so uncomfortable. But there's such a power to it. The way Mr. Grady talks about things, there's just this level of certainty in his eyes, and the way he talks about things, it just feels like there's no question. He knows exactly what's happened and what's going to happen, despite the very beginning when it seems like maybe he doesn't remember what happened because Jack was sort of asking, where's your family? But there's just this sort of calm assurance that he's got. And for me, I don't know what it is, but that is such a great, strong performance. That whole scene just blows the rest of the movie away for me.
Yeah.
So I like it. It's such a small scene and very simple.
I mean,
but I think it's very pivotal. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, it was one of my choices.
Yeah.
Very good.
So that's mine.
Nice.
I'll
go ahead and go.
Okay. What you got?
So mine is actually with Mr. Halloran and Danny when they're by themselves and sitting at the table. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's kind of asking Danny some questions, and Danny's just kind of sitting there staring at him and like gives these very minute, minuscule kind of shrugs.
Yeah.
In response to these questions that he's being asked. But then, as Danny kind of figures out that he knows kind of what he's going through, that Mr. Halloran knows what he's going through, that he starts to open up a little bit more, and he asks his own questions, which I thought were really important. Right. Because, basically you get to learn a little bit more about what The Shining is. And it's kind of a blend of being able to see, as he says, past and future. You're more in touch with those kinds of things that other people can't see or experience. And then they're also apparently telekinetic. So I thought it was a really good way, a really interesting way to kind of talk about that and not just show it to you, because they kind of showed you when Danny had his episode in the bathroom or whatever, when he saw the blood flood.
Yeah,
yes.
Before the psychologist came by.
Yeah.
He was brushing his teeth.
Yeah, when he passed out, apparently. Had a fit.
Yeah, I think it's also really interesting to see how hesitant Danny is to talk about it. Because even at 6, it's like he really already understands that it's unusual in a negative way. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and also, what is it? What's the name of the voice that lives in his mouth?
Tony?
Is it Tony? Yeah. Well, it's also Tony, told him don't tell anyone.
Yeah.
Don't talk to anybody about him. But yeah, no, I really like that. Like I said, you get to learn about The Shining itself, and you get to learn about Mr. Halloran and kind of Danny and the things that he's already sensed from being there. He asks about the hotel, but then he goes straight to a specific room.
Yeah.
There ain't nothing in that room. You have no business going in that room. Aha. Which is pretty telling, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that is pretty telling.
Yeah, so that was mine.
Good choice.
Very good scene.
James.
So I guess that leaves me, right?
Yes, it does.
Well, for mine, instead of doing a scene, I'm going to do more of a... No, I'm kidding.
Ha ha ha.
Today.
Going last, that seemed to be the theme recently. But no, mine, it is more than just one scene. It's a moment, so it's two separate scenes, and it's the way that they kind of ramp up and start the third act. And it is when Danny is playing on that incredibly cool carpet, the geometric one.
Mm-hmm.
I love that carpeting. I would totally have that in my house, and it wouldn't creep me out at all.
It's a little busy, but sure.
It is a little busy, but it's pretty awesome. But then you get that moment where the ball rolls towards him, and then he seems unnerved there. And it's because, in my mind, it's because he's already, he's listening to Mr. Halloran, and that they're just pictures.
Right.
And he even reminds himself of that when he sees the twins in the hallway.
Yeah.
And having a physical ball roll towards him, like, kind of, he's always unnerved by it, but that's a whole new level.
Right.
And
that's not just a picture.
Up.
Yeah.
What's up?
So that's not just
a little more than a picture.
Yeah.
And he stands up and walks over to the door, and 237, the forbidden room, is not only unlocked where he had tried it before and it was locked, but has the key in it, and it's twisted, it's slightly ajar, where you can see inside where you're not supposed to go. And you're following Danny's POV as he's about to walk into the room, and then it cuts. And that cut was really, I don't know. I was expecting to go farther. I was expecting them originally. Obviously, this time I wasn't expecting it, but it has that feeling like it's supposed to go farther. Like you're supposed to see at least some of it and know how scary it's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And cutting it there is almost more chilling, because then immediately after that, you have Wendy in the boiler room, turning on different sections of the building, and she hears this scream, this just guttural scream. And the thought as an audience is that Jack has found Danny and something horrible's happened.
Right.
Maybe Jack's hurt him or something of that nature. And you almost immediately see, as she runs away, that it's Jack is having a nightmare. And the way that kind of plays into his, just how distraught he is when he woke up from it. It's like the only moment of humanity that he has in the entire movie. He seems genuinely concerned and distraught at that moment, and it's not just a show. Yeah. And then Danny, with his physical repercussions, it's like the proof that it is way more than just a picture.
Yeah, exactly.
And it ties into his downfall as well, because of the accusations, because of when he had hurt Danny before.
Yeah, that was right into the tailspin.
Right. And that is kind of what set him off. That's what made him go back on drinking, even though it's ghost alcohol. I don't know if it's real.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? He was willing to break his sobriety, which was a commitment he had made to his family, because that's the person he's supposed to be, not the person he is.
Mm-hmm.
And that seems to be like a theme throughout it. And it goes into him drinking. I don't know. It's such a important, like, culminating scene that, like, just changes the entire dynamic of what this could be. And the mystery of 237, and the fact that it's got Danny in the Apollo 11 sweater, which is like sent the conspiracy theorists through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I love so much about those. It's almost two scenes, but they're joined because they play into each other so heavily.
Yeah, no, they do.
And I just love that. That is the part that, like, gives me chills.
Yeah, it's the turning point of the movie.
Right.
So like there was an undertone the whole time, but that undertone is now very overt.
Yeah.
And honestly, what a natural leap to make that Jack is who hurt him, because they're supposed to be completely isolated.
Right.
Right. Man,
Yeah.
I love that scene. That's my favorite.
It's very
my
good.
favorite one.
Good choice.
Yeah, good choice.
Thank you. All right. Well, then I think that wraps it up for The Shining. Anything else?
Nope.
No.
All right. Hopefully you guys enjoyed our coverage of the movie. If you did, then please go online and like and subscribe. But make sure to join us next time on Were You Not Entertained?